Okay, I want to cover how I do neck sizing for the 4570, and this is for use in a Marlin Guide Gun. The bullet that I currently use, because I bought a bazillion of them when they were cheap, is the Remington 405 grain jacketed soft point. It's been a good bullet, accurate bullet. Took one elk with it. Elk died very quickly with a gigantic hole in it. And of course that elk was shot at a whopping 15 yards with a bullet that exited the muzzle at about 1,800 feet per second. The bullet did shed its core, shed its jacket, but that's really irrelevant given how far the bullet penetrated and how big it expanded. It was nearly an inch, and it penetrated almost well, more than 2 feet. I was almost 3 feet really, but it definitely did the job. Now, having said all that, there's an issue with this bullet, and you run into this with the Marlin Action. The Marlin Action doesn't handle a cartridge overall length greater than 2.6 inches. It barely will handle that. So let's take a look. This thin line at the front of my caliper there that I'm messing with right up here above the cantilever is where you actually end up crimping. You'll see that that is about, oh, I don't know, let's call it 540, maybe 525, depending on who's doing the measurement. The cantilever that's in the bullet sits back at about 420 or so, by basically 1/10 of an inch back. A guy could take and trim his brass 1/10 of an inch shorter and use this cantilever right here, and you would maintain the same overall case capacity and hence the same pressure, would be safe. The only reason I don't do that is because, well, one, I'm lazy. I don't really feel like trimming all this brass. But secondly, I might want to use this brass for something other than launching this 405 grain Remington bullet. I got plenty of cast stuff I like to shoot too. So let's see, one other dimension, just so you'll see this. The Remington is about 450, yeah, 457 and a little change, 457, a little more as we get towards the bands. I don't know, I guess that says in the cantilever's 456, so we'll say, yeah, no way. This is operator error here, 457 and a little bit. This bullet. It's about normal for this bullet. Okay, enough of the bullet. Let's talk about the brass for a moment. An unsized, let me grab an unsized case. This brass has been fired a bunch. This is Remington's nickel-plated brass. I don't have any complaints with it. I would guess I've got probably 15 loadings on this brass as is. Usually when this brass croaks, it's either because so much of the nickel is flaked off that I don't like it anymore, or the case mouth is cracked because of me using that Lee FCD, Lee Factory Crimp die, a little too aggressively on it. Here's some, let me get you some dimensions though. So at about, on an unfired case, at about the ½ inch mark, we see that it's about 0.486. If we move back about 7/10 of an inch, we're at about 488, 489. So this is an unsized case. I think I said unfired. That's ridiculous. This thing's been fired a retarded number of times. And then inside the case mouth, we'll see it's about 457 or so, 458, which makes perfect sense since that's what the bullets are. Now here's a neck-sized case, and we'll take a look at the same dimensions, same point, just for reference. At about the half-inch mark, we're at 474, and at about the 7/10 of an inch mark, we're at about 485 or so. So it's kind of important to remember this. Remember, let's go back and look at our Remington for bullet here for a moment. Where we're going to crimp at, put the crimp is at about 520, 533, somewhere in there. The point being is that we've got a half an inch of this guy that we're neck sizing to hang on, half an inch of the cartridge case that we're neck sizing to hang on to this Remington bullet. And so maybe I'll show it this way instead. We've got that much. Now, you say, so what's my point? Well, my point is that the neck tension on the brass is more important than the crimp. So this is a half an inch worth of neck tension that's hanging on to this guy. On top of that, I'm going to put a crimp in there with the Lee factory crimp die, and it's going to be a pretty good crimp. Now I just want to show you real quick how it is I go about setting up my neck size die. The neck size die I'm using is Lehman's short neck size die. Seems pretty good. You don't have any complaints with it. I can't remember why I bought it versus, say, a Lee. It's probably because Lee didn't have it. I'm not just a Lee fan. It's just I use pretty much what works, and their stuff usually works. So, first thing I did is I took a Sharpie and I kind of colored this case. Now, you know, you machinist types would use Prussian blue, or you mechanics would probably use that gear setup, gear mark compound or something, doesn't matter, but this is, I just used a Sharpie on this guy. Then I go ahead and I run it through my neck size, pop that old primer out. And I pull this guy out and grab my handy dandy calipers again, and I measure my smear to get a rough idea where I'm at. And I'm sitting at about 850 or so, depending on which part of the smear I want to measure. Now, to me, 8/9 of an inch is about right. It's enough. If you go farther than that, you're sizing more and more for no particular advantage. It's not hanging onto the brass anymore. And when you keep doing that, you're essentially full-length resizing this case. Whole reason why I'm doing this is to avoid full-length resizing this case. I found it's not necessary. These things chamber in my Marlin just fine. Don't have a problem. Would they chamber in somebody else's Marlin? Yeah, I don't care, because I'm not making ammo for somebody else. If it don't work in their gun, tough. But it works fine in mine. These cases were full-length resized at least once in their life. And I don't know how many load cycles they've got on them since I started neck sizing, but I would say at least 5 or 6. How long can I go before I need to full-length resize again? Not really sure. The way I judge it is pretty simple. If they chamber, if they slam home, chamber just fine, I don't worry about it. I know supposedly lever guns don't have much camming action, much leverage, but and I'm not Hercules, and it seems to work just fine for me. Your mileage may vary, of course. So I hope this helped. The whole point of this was to show a way to do neck sizing. I will tell you that you know, once I saw the light and went to neck sizing, I haven't looked back. Mean, especially when I shoot elk at 15 yards. One thing to note though, I am using the Lee factory crimp die. The reason I'm using it is frankly it is a better mousetrap, and I really do suggest that if you are going to do neck sizing, actually if you're just going to reload 45-70 at all, especially for a lever gun, that you check for bullet setback, because it's very common. So the bullet should be sitting here, and you load these into a lever gun magazine tube, and let's say you got these loads where they're lobbing this 400 plus grain chunk of lead out at 1900 feet per second. It's going to be a lot of recoil, and it will drive the bullet deeper and deeper and deeper into the case, and the pressures will go up. Whether it's dangerous or not, it depends on your load. If you're loading to the hairy edge, then you definitely better make sure you understand bullet setback. Lee factory crimp die allows me to put a crimp right here where there's no cannular, and right here where there's no cannular. I guess I need to show all this up here a little better, and it works. So does it deform the bullet? Yes, it does. Does it impact the accuracy? Not that I can tell. I might notice it if I was, you know, had a big scope on my rifle and was shooting out 300-400 yards, but I don't. So this guy with my favorite loads is a one-holer. It means with iron sights at 50 yards, it shoots one ragged hole, and I'm happy with that. So folks, I hope this helps. Thanks for your time. Bye.